Stop right there. Colleen Bartleby, the HOA president, slammed her hands onto the hood of my wife's brand new pink Porsche 911, her voice shrill with fury. The neighbors had already started gathering phones out, recording everything. I need to test drive this car. HOA policy. Jenna stood frozen, eyes wide in disbelief. This is crazy, Colleen, she muttered. I stepped forward, trying to keep my cool. Colleen, there's no HOA policy that says you can test drive our car. Her smile twisted into something dark. I am the policy, she hissed. That's when I realized she was about to do something much worse than just steal our car. Colleen Bartleby wasn't just the HOA president, she was Magnolia Crest Reserve's self-appointed dictator. With her platinum blonde hair that never moved and shoes that screamed, "I'm in charge," she ruled the neighborhood like it was her own little kingdom. Her house 3 doors down was the embodiment of everything she despised about fun and individuality, beige stucco with the charm of a paper bag. But it wasn't her house that earned her the title of local terror. It was her obsession with controlling the lives of everyone around her. Her golf cart was her throne, always parked in front of her house, ready for patrol around the block. The community patrol sign slapped on its side, looking like it had been made in Microsoft Word, was the first sign that Colleen took herself a little too seriously. She had a knack for making you feel like you were always doing something wrong. From her spot on the porch or behind the blinds, she watched. And when she saw our pink Porsche, it was like a switch flipped. Suddenly, we were enemy number one. The car wasn't just out of place in her unified neighborhood, it was a personal attack, a challenge to her control. She wasn't just enforcing rules, she was obsessed with breaking us, and it was clear she wouldn't stop until she did. I moved to Magnolia Crest Reserve looking for peace, a quiet street, a stable Wi-Fi connection, and a neighborhood where people followed the rules without drama. I worked in corporate compliance, so order and structure were second nature to me. All I wanted was a place where I could relax, kick back, and enjoy the simplicity of suburban life. Jenna, on the other hand, was the extrovert between us. She was vibrant, outgoing, the kind of person who brought homemade cookies to new neighbors and, without meaning to, ended up starting block parties. She had just gotten a huge promotion at work, and after weeks of long hours and spreadsheets, she decided to treat herself. A little indulgence. A custom-wrapped bubblegum pink Porsche 911. It was bold, it was flashy, and it was completely her. The car arrived, and I watched as Jenna practically floated around it, grinning ear to ear. She'd earned it, and I was thrilled to see her so happy. But the second Colleen saw it, I knew we were in trouble. The very next morning, a violation notice was taped to our front door, notice of non-compliant vehicle. Apparently, the color of the Porsche clashed with the HOA's harmonious aesthetic. Colleen had included a detailed list of the guidelines, highlighting how the car violated the rules. Jenna stared at the letter in disbelief. They outlawed fun, she muttered. I wasn't going to let it slide. I sent an email to the board. Vehicle color is not regulated by state statute and does not appear in the recorded covenants. I included a polite but clear note, kindly pound sand. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. Colleen escalated quickly, staring us down every time we left the house, accusing us of all sorts of ridiculous infractions. Soon, she was sending out mass emails about our garish car, even claiming it endangered children, despite the fact that Jenna drove like a grandma. This wasn't just about a car anymore. It was about Colleen trying to control everything, even our right to live peacefully. And as her behavior got more erratic, I realized she wasn't just enforcing the rules, she was rewriting them. And that's when I decided to fight back. It started with a notice, a plastic sleeve taped to our front door. Notice of non-compliant vehicle, it read, with a breakdown of why our pink Porsche didn't fit the harmonious aesthetic of Magnolia Crest. The color was too loud, too attention-grabbing. Jenna read it twice and then looked at me. They outlawed fun, she whispered, shaking her head. I wasn't having it. I sent an email to the board, a calm legal reply. Vehicle color is not regulated by state statute. I figured that would be the end of it. But no, Colleen's vendetta had just begun. The next day she parked her golf cart at the end of our driveway. Every time we left the house, she was watching, clipboard in hand. "Where are you going with that car?" she'd shout as if Jenna were committing some terrible crime. Is this trip really necessary? It was uncomfortable, but we tried to brush it off. Then came the mass emails. Colleen sent one out to the entire neighborhood about the disruptive vehicle, claiming the pink Porsche was an eyesore and could potentially cause accidents. Jenna, who drives like a grandma, was officially a danger to the community. The email claimed the car endangered children, an accusation that was so ridiculous we both just stared at each other. But Colleen wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. Things escalated quickly, from passive-aggressive emails to something much worse. Colleen parked her golf cart at the end of our driveway every morning, her eyes constantly on our car. It was like living under surveillance. Every time Jenna left the house, Colleen was there, clipboard in hand, demanding to inspect the Porsche. "I'm required to perform safety inspections on non-compliant vehicles," she said one afternoon, standing on our lawn with an expression that was half challenge, half threat. "I don't think so," I replied, stepping outside to confront her. "You're not the DMV." But Colleen wasn't backing down. She started showing up at random times, even knocking on our door, demanding to inspect the car. "It's for your safety," she would say. "For the good of the neighborhood." There were times when it felt like I was losing my grip on reality. What started as a simple car violation had now turned into her trying to control every movement we made. She was violating our privacy, stepping onto our property without permission, all while wielding the HOA's power like a weapon. I felt like I was living in an alternate universe where rules didn't matter and Colleen's word was law. Things hit a boiling point when Colleen started making wild accusations. The first came in the middle of the night. A neighbor knocked on our door the next morning, claiming they had heard the Porsche revving loudly at 200 a.m. It woke me up, they said. We were asleep. The car had been parked in the garage. We checked the ring footage, and sure enough, the only thing on camera at 200 a.m. was a cat walking by our driveway. I forwarded the footage to Colleen and reminded her that our car wasn't even out of the garage. But it didn't matter. Colleen sent out another mass email accusing us of disturbing the peace, citing loud engine noises at odd hours. This wasn't just harassment anymore. She was trying to tarnish our reputation in the neighborhood, painting us as troublemakers. Then came the threat. "If you do not repaint your vehicle within 10 days, Colleen wrote, I will take further action." At that point, I realized it wasn't just the car anymore. Colleen wasn't about enforcing community rules. She was trying to break us to make us comply with her every whim. It wasn't long before Colleen began making even bolder moves. She started talking about impounding our car. "Your vehicle is unsafe," she claimed, as if she had any authority to make such a judgment. She even said she had the right to seize it and place it under temporary HOA custody. My jaw nearly hit the floor. I responded by reminding her calmly that the HOA had no legal authority over private property, certainly not to impound it. But she was relentless. Colleen began sending out fake complaints about our car to various authorities trying to build a case against us. She even filed a report with the local sheriff's office claiming our car was a public safety hazard. I had to step up. I started documenting everything. Emails, letters, and even recording our conversations. I was building a case against her, but the more I gathered, the more I realized this wasn't just an HOA issue. Colleen was playing with fire, and it was only a matter of time before it got out of control. The tipping point came on a Saturday morning. Jenna had just backed the Porsche out of the garage, planning to drive to brunch with a friend, when Colleen's golf cart screeched to a halt at the end of our driveway. She jumped out, clipboard in hand, eyes wide with panic. "You can't take this vehicle off the premises until it has passed HOA inspection," she demanded, her voice shrill with authority. Jenna blinked. "I'm going to get brunch, Colleen," she said slowly. "Not a safety inspection." But Colleen wasn't backing down. "I'm the HOA president. I have the right to test drive this car," she shouted, stepping toward the Porsche. She planted both hands on the hood, leaving palm prints in the dust. "Give me the keys." The neighbors had started gathering, standing in their yards, their phones pointed at us. I stepped forward, my calm voice cutting through the chaos. "Colleen," I said, "step away from my wife's car." She turned on me, fury in her eyes. "You're harboring a non-compliant vehicle," she spat. "If you don't hand me those keys, I'll have it towed and you'll lose your parking privileges." That was it. She had crossed a line. And that's when I realized I wasn't just fighting Colleen anymore. I was fighting to keep our lives from being destroyed. The HOA meeting was set. Colleen walked in like she owned the place, all stiff posture and tight-lipped confidence. But the atmosphere in the room was electric with tension. The HOA board was already on edge. They knew what was coming. At the back of the room sat two people with badges, investigators from the Department of Insurance and the HOA's insurance carrier. Colleen's eyes immediately flicked to them, and I could see the panic building behind her calm facade. The property manager cleared his throat and began the meeting. "We've received serious allegations regarding misuse of authority by one of the board members." The entire room turned toward Colleen. "We have representatives from the Department of Insurance and our insurance carrier present to address these concerns." Colleen shifted uncomfortably, her hands fidgeting with her blazer. Her eyes darted between the investigators, the board members, and the neighbors who were already whispering. She tried to speak, but the murmurs around the room drowned her out. The walls were closing in. I could feel the moment shift as the investigators stood up. We've reviewed audio and video recordings that show Colleen Bartleby threatening to make false safety reports about a resident's vehicle. One of them said, their voice steady but firm. Her goal was clear: to raise the homeowner's insurance premiums and cause financial harm. The room fell silent. Colleen's face went white. She opened her mouth to say something, but the words caught in her throat. The investigators didn't stop. We also have documentation showing her attempts to seize private property under false pretenses. She does not have the authority to impound vehicles, and her actions constitute coercion and intimidation. I stepped up, my phone in hand, showing the damning footage: Colleen threatening to report our car to our insurance company, claiming it was unsafe. The looks on the board members' faces said it all. They were finally seeing Colleen for who she really was. I also have evidence of Colleen's repeated violation of the HOA's own rules. I added, passing around a stack of documents. This has gone far beyond enforcing neighborhood guidelines. She's been abusing her power, and it's time we hold her accountable. Colleen's attempts to salvage the situation were futile. She tried to explain, tried to justify her actions, but the weight of the evidence was too much. The room was no longer with her. Neighbors murmured among themselves, some of them shaking their heads, others outright voicing their support for the action taken. This is all to protect the neighborhood, Colleen argued weakly, but her voice lacked conviction. The Porsche was a safety hazard. I'm just doing my job. The investigator from the Department of Insurance didn't flinch. Articles are not law, ma'am, he said, cutting her off. You can't just make up your own rules, and you certainly can't threaten a resident's insurance company over a personal vendetta. The property manager unfolded a piece of paper. There is a motion on the table to remove Colleen Bartleby from her position as HOA president, he announced, his voice calm but firm. She will be banned from all enforcement duties and removed from the board entirely. Additionally, we will be filing reports with the state regarding her misuse of authority and potential insurance fraud. A few people in the room stood and clapped their approval evident. Colleen's eyes narrowed, her face flushing with anger and humiliation. She looked around, realizing she had lost. There was no way out now. As the vote was called, I knew we had won. The board members voted overwhelmingly in favor of her removal, 63-2, against and 1 abstaining. Colleen's reign of terror was over. But the final blow came when the HOA's insurance representative spoke up with a near smile. Oh, and one more thing, she said, almost too gleefully. We'll be requiring Colleen to complete a full ethics and insurance course to maintain the HOA's insurance coverage. The crowd snickered, some even chuckling out loud. Colleen stood there, her jaw clenched, but she didn't speak. Not a word. For the first time in the entire ordeal, Colleen was utterly silent. I stood there trying to take in what had just happened. Colleen had been a force in this neighborhood, a tyrant disguised as a neighborhood leader, and now she was gone. The weight of it all hit me. The stress, the constant harassment, the feeling that we were constantly under attack, it was finally over. Jenna squeezed my hand, a soft smile crossing her face. We did it, she whispered. And we had. The relief that washed over me was overwhelming. As the meeting wrapped up and neighbors started filtering out of the clubhouse, people came over to congratulate us. Some were more subtle, but others were openly supportive. The retired couple across the street even gave us a thumbs up as they left. I hadn't realized how much Colleen's grip on the community had affected everyone. I looked around. The tension that had been hanging over Magnolia Crest Reserve for so long had lifted. People started talking, laughing, and sharing stories in the parking lot. It was like the neighborhood had come alive again. For the first time since we moved in, it felt like the community was truly united, not under the rule of a self-appointed tyrant, but under the simple idea that we should all be able to live in peace. The legal fallout didn't stop there. Colleen may have been stripped of her position as HOA president, but the consequences continued to ripple through the neighborhood. The HOA board was restructured to prevent anything like this from happening again. The board members who had silently supported Colleen were replaced with more balanced and fair individuals. As for Colleen, she had to face the consequences of her actions. The state insurance department opened an official investigation into her behavior, and the HOA's own insurance carrier reconsidered its policies. The word fraud was something no one in Magnolia Crest wanted to be associated with, especially not the HOA. She was also ordered to complete an ethics course, a cruel but fitting punishment. The course was long, grueling, and mandatory for any further dealings with the HOA's insurance. The representatives from the insurance company even recommended she take the 8-hour version for maximum thoroughness, which the room found absolutely delightful. The best part, Colleen never quite regained her former power. No one in the neighborhood would ever take her seriously again. The final blow came when the new HOA board officially announced that her involvement in any future community decisions would be prohibited. She wasn't just removed from her position, she was stripped of all influence. Our lives slowly returned to normal. Jenna still drove her pink Porsche, and I could finally relax knowing that Colleen couldn't ruin another moment of our lives. The best part was seeing how the rest of the neighborhood responded. People began speaking up. No one was afraid of Colleen anymore. And as the weeks passed, more and more neighbors came forward sharing stories of how they had been bullied or intimidated by her. For once, the neighborhood felt safe. We were no longer living in fear of a power-hungry HOA president. Colleen had been taken down by the very thing she feared the most: accountability. In the end, it wasn't just about the Porsche. It was about standing up to someone who tried to impose their will on our lives. It was about saying, enough is enough. And as Jenna drove down the street one afternoon, the pink Porsche gleaming under the sun, I smiled. "We did it, didn't we?" I said to her. She looked at me grinning from ear to ear. "We sure did. And now every time I drive this car, I'm going to remember how we beat the system and Colleen." And with that, I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't about taking things into your own hands, it's about letting the system work in your favor. And nothing felt sweeter than that.